I have spent years, even decades, chasing Eddie Van Halen's iconic early tone, and I recently found it in a plugin that'll cost you less than a dinner date. No Frankenstrat, no vintage amps and pedals, no load box, no Variac. Nope, just one plugin, and I'm telling you, this thing absolutely nails it. In this video, I'll go over the user interface for this plugin, show you where all the effects are hiding out, as well as how you can and quite possibly should tweak the settings just a bit so you can sound like your favorite classic Van Halen tracks. Now, you will need one extra thing to make this all work, but it might be something you already have, and I'll show you what that is. So, might as well jump into it. Alright, so this amazing plugin I'm talking about is called the Brown Sound 7879 collection from IK Multimedia. It was put together by Jim Gaustad. I would check out his YouTube channel if you want to get some more like in-depth details about it all and really nerd out about it. It's a pretty cool video. He seems like a neat guy. But anyway, this is the user interface. This is the ToneX app. This is the free version. They have a paid one, which currently is on an incredible discount. I just have the free one because I didn't have anything until I wanted to get this Brown Sound plugin. But the paid one is on sale right now for $100. It usually goes for $300. I'll show that later here in the video because I'm gonna be referring to a couple other things on their website. But this Brown Sound collection comes with 50 presets, a variety of things, different voltages on the Variac, different speaker cabinets, Marshall 1960 A and B. One of them's the flat face, one of them's the angled face. And then he's got different speakers loaded in those cabinets, 25 watt greenbacks, 25 watt blackbacks, JBL in a couple cases. Most of them are mic'd with Shure SM57s, but he's got a few where he does just a room mic, a condenser mic. And then a lot of the presets are album production quality, meaning they've got all the post EQ and all that stuff applied. And then he's got a decent amount of them that are just raw with no post production on it. So anyway, like I say, I would recommend you go to his website or his channel if you want to check that stuff out. If I try to get into all that here, this video will take way too long. I'm trying to get better about making more easily digestible videos, I guess we could say. Alright, so if you just turn on your plugin as soon as you get it and you get your guitar hooked up, all these settings are going to sound pretty cool. Like I mentioned, there's 50 different ones with a variety of different parameters set differently. But one thing that I do need to tell you is these are all pretty much dry. Everything in your signal chain other than the amp and the cab are off by default. And you can find that under this ToneX title ribbon here. You got a noise gate, then your amp, your cab, a compressor, a modulation pedal, delay, and reverb, and then this thing advanced. This is like post EQ mixing if you wanted to tweak that stuff. And it looks like this one must just always be on. That's fine. So to activate any one of these, you click on it, and then the options come up. And then to deactivate, you either click on another one or click on it again. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn on modulation, delay, and reverb. So let's start with the modulation. You can turn these on one of two ways. You see this little white dot in each panel? That's the power switch. So you see on the amp and the cab, they're on. They're up. Noise gate is off. Compressor, all the other ones are off. So I'm going to turn the modulation on. I can either do it with that switch, or once it's selected, I can click the power button over here. You have different options. You chorus, tremolo, phaser, flanger, and rotary, like a Leslie speaker, I suppose. So I'm going to stick with the phaser, and I'm going to stick with these settings. This rate is at about 0.2. The depth, I think, is 43, and the level is 6.6, 6.5. Yep. Okay. And then over here, there's this switch pre and post. So right now, this is after the amp and cab, which is not how they would have done things back then because they didn't have effects loops and all the pedals had built-in buffers. There was no true bypass back in those days. So I'm going to go ahead and put that, and you see what happened there. The modulation moved to before the amplifier when I click it onto pre, and that's what I want for my signal chain for this. So I'm going to do the same thing with the delay. I'm going to turn it on, and I could have done it up here too. Then you have either digital or tape. Eddie used the Echoplex tape, so I'm going to use tape. Normal and ping pong, I'm going to leave it at normal. Delay, I've got the time set at 310. This is in milliseconds. Feedback, I leave it about 50% there. And the mix, we just want a little bit, so I'm going to leave that, I think I have it at 6. And again, now in modern amps, we would put this probably in the effects loop, but this is vintage modeling, so I'm going to go pre. And actually, here, let me show you something anyway. I stumbled upon this. If I have this delay set in the post, and I'm even going to turn the mix up so you can really get a sense for what I'm talking about. It's on, and it's in post. And you can kind of tell that it's on, but listen to it if I put it in the pre. It's way more pronounced, and so I'm going to dial that mix down. But I just think it sounds better overall here. It's got just a little bit of, maybe a little bit of that slapback kind of effect going on. Last thing I'm going to mess with here is the reverb. Now, I don't know if this is because Eddie didn't really use a reverb pedal, if this is just supposed to be like a studio reverb or what, but this one you can't move to before the amp. You can have it post or last, and so it's on last by default. I'm just going to leave it that way, and I have the time set at 3, pre-delay at 250. This just kind of gives it a nice, more full sound, I guess. Color 9 o'clock or 0. I got the mix set at 20, which is just a shade past 9 o'clock. You have some options: 4 spring reverbs, a room, and a plate. I'm going to leave it on room and turn it on, and let's see how that sounds. Now obviously I wouldn't have all these effects on a riff like that, but I just wanted you to be able to hear how it sounds with the effects on versus when they're off. If I turn them back all off, this is how it would have sounded just straight out of the box. Still sounds pretty cool, but obviously very dry. I should mention too, while we're talking about this Brown Sound collection here, if you happen to be working on your own Eddie chops and trying to figure out some of his riffs and licks, I do have a free PDF download of over 20 of his licks and riffs. That'll be linked in the description too. It's totally free, so I'd recommend you check that out. Okay, and then one last thing you want to consider when you're playing with this plugin is all these models were built with guitars and amps. I mean, this Jim, he literally built all of his equipment to mimic what Eddie used back in the day. It was all very period specific. The amp was built exactly to the specs of what Eddie's was. The guitars had the humbucker pickups that Eddie used in his Frankenstrat, and then the same pickups that were in the Ibanez Destroyer. And so what that means and why it's relevant to us today is those pickups had impedances of around like 7.6, maybe 7.7 or whatever ohms, or I should say 7.6K to be specific. A guitar like this EVH Stripe series, more modern, has what we call a hotter pickup, and this pickup has more like somewhere around 14K, I believe. And so that can make your sound a little darker. And so if you really want to be able to emulate the sound of the albums, you may find, depending on your pickup, that you have to tweak some of these knobs on the amp too. Like on mine, it's going to probably sound a little darker, so I might want to dial the bass back a little bit, and I maybe want to boost the treble just a bit, like that. And maybe I might even want to toy with the gain just a little too. Let's see what happens if I dial that gain back just a little bit. Let's pull that down to about 4. All right, quickly I want to talk about some of these preset names. Initially, I thought that maybe they were supposed to kind of correlate to specific songs because the names have some similarity to some of the titles on the album. And there's this spreadsheet here that's available. You can get this on the website for the Brown Sound plugin if you go to the IK Multimedia site. Let me zoom in on this a little bit so we can read. So like Volcano, that's probably, you know, named for eruption. Dreaming Big, Little Dreamer, haha, irony. Probably Running with the Devil, Into Flames, I would think On Fire, That's the One is probably I'm the One. Pleasant, I have no idea. Room, I think just means that these are mic'd with room mics. If we scroll on all the way to the other side, if I can keep my eyes aligned. Yeah, anything with this U67 in the microphone columns means it's a room condenser mic as opposed to 2 mics on the cab, the Shure SM57s. This tells you like the production information, the description of what's going on, voltage on the Variac, what speakers are in the cabinet. I think he might have explained what some of this hot stuff means in his video on his channel, so I would check that out. I can't remember what it means off the top of my head. Here's the signal chain. Now, 40 of these 50 presets are based on the 1978 signal chain, and then 10 of them are based on the 1979. And then the cabinet, here you've got your 1960A versus 1960B. So yeah, you can, like I said, you can get to this PDF chart on the Tonex website. And matter of fact, let's just go to that real quick here. And then I was going to show you real quick here too. The Tonex CS, that's the one I have, the free download. You get 20 tone models that are not the Brown Sound. That Brown Sound you got to pay for. You get 10 amps, 5 pedals, and you also can download up to 20 user models. People can upload their presets, I guess, to the cloud or something. I haven't had a chance to look into that just yet. But if you get the Tonex Max, which I'm going to do, you get over 1,250 models, 100 amps, 50 pedals to play with. You can create your own models and then unlimited downloads of user models. And like I say, it's normally $300. They got it for $100 right now. I'll put a link in the description if you do want to check this out, like I'm going to. Full transparency, that will be an affiliate link. Because of this Brown Sound collection, I decided to reach out to IK and become an affiliate for them because I'm so impressed with the software. Okay, so let's see. Let's go find this Brown Sound. Products, guitar, and we'll go software. And here it is, Tonex Brown Sound 7879. I already bought it, so that's why it doesn't show the price. It just says buy more licenses. But they have a special price on it now. It's supposed to be $100, but they're selling it for $80. And that link is also in the description. As I already said, I'm an affiliate for these guys. Anyway, it wouldn't cost you anymore. 80 bucks is what they're charging. I would just get a little kickback for making the referral. But if we go into the page for this app, or plugin I should say, there's all kinds of fascinating information on here. And then right down here is where you can download the tone models list that I was just showing. And there's a lot of info there, so it's hard to read. But yeah, there's the price. Regularly $100, special intro price $79.99. All right, so at the beginning of the video, I kind of hinted that you may need something to make this work. And if you haven't already figured it out, this is not something I'm selling, by the way. You don't necessarily need a DAW. That interface that I showed, this is standalone. Now, I recorded the intro music for this video in my Ableton Live, and so I used the VST plugin. I imported it into my Ableton, and within that, the interface for this looks exactly the same. The only difference is you can't expand it to fill the whole screen like I have it here. It just takes up a predetermined amount of space in the Ableton software. But I don't need the Ableton software. So what is it that I need? Well, you do have to have an audio digital interface of some kind, because you got to be able to plug your guitar into something so that you're able to make use of the plugin. So personally, I have a Scarlett Focusrite. Mine's pretty crazy. I got like the 18i20, I think is what it's called. But I think you can get interface for around $100. I know the Focusrite's pretty well thought of, whichever size you go for. I think they make a 2x2. So that's the missing ingredient. That is what you will need, is your own audio interface. What Van Halen album do you think has his best tone? I know I've got my own personal opinion, but I'm curious to hear what you got to say, so why don't you drop that in the comments. Alrighty, that about wraps it up. If you got value from this video, and I hope you did, please click that like button. It does help my channel out. And make sure you check out my video on the top 10 techniques of how to play like Eddie Van Halen. That should be right here, I believe. Alright, thanks a lot. See you next time.